You were born in Israel, then you lived in Chile, then Argentina, then Luxembourg, then New York. It's kind of a cocktail of cultures, which makes you a perfect Eurovision artist in a lot of ways. What's your relationship to Luxembourg, and what does it mean to you to represent the country at Eurovision? The first time the country's back in over 30 years.
Yeah, so it's longer than I've been alive, which is insane. Although I've been moving around and I have parents from all over the world, Luxembourg is where I found myself, where I started music, where I started writing. My house is here. My friends are here. My family's been here for 13 years.
You've talked about how your earliest relationship to Eurovision was through your grandfather.
My grandpa, he took me to my first musical when I was 6. It was Mamma Mia. I'm a theater kid. And so he really sparked that for me. We grew together with music and he showed me a lot. He would send me emails, which is so strange, of just like, oh, she made us at the final, like all this stuff. And he normally likes the weirdest performances. I was like young and I remember opening up these videos and it was like the strangest thing. And I was like, why are you sending me this? But
That's amazing.
Yeah, but I feel like he really expanded my love for music and musical theater in every way. And yeah, he passed away in a horrible car accident when I was 15. It's a really hard moment in life. And I think holding on to that love for music through him was like what kind of helped me move on from that. And I feel like he would be so proud if he knew that I was going to Melbourne. It's just so cool.
It's kind of amazing how you trained in musical theater and now going to Eurovision. Both of those things are represented in the musical Mamma Mia. It does include a Eurovision song. I love how both of those roads kind of ground back to your grandfather.
I didn't even think of it that way ever. And that's so beautiful.
I know you responded really well to Cornelia Jakobs' performance.
I need to apologize, 'cause there's nothing to regret.
Can you talk a little bit about what about that performance drew you in?
First of all, I think it's a phenomenal. It's super well written. It's simple, but it's gut-wrenching. I think her voice is so raw and emotional, and her honesty and simplicity on stage, I love it. It's very cool.
Yeah. That actually is like a perfect transition to your solo work. Again, very raw, vulnerable lyrics. The music is very surprising. The bridge of Lose You, that's such a cool choice.
I don't want to play the fool, and I don't want to lose me through you. I know that I've had enough. I think it's time to give this up.
Can you kind of walk our listeners through what the process of writing a song is for you?
Yeah. First of all, thank you. That means so much. I love Lose You. I think when I write, it's very much the melody first. Like I sit on the piano or the guitar, and because I kind of was raised with music first, that is the first thing that comes up to me. But recently it's been interesting. I've kind of been doing lyrics first too, like in my notes app. It's very spontaneous. Like I took a songwriting class in college and I was like, this is so hard. Write a song by Wednesday. And for me, it was like, I can't do that. It really pushed me to be able to do that if needed. Like if the label's like, okay, we need an album in 2 months. But organically, like for me, it's like when it sparks, it sparks. I also love to co-write. I was scared of it for a long time. And now it's like my favorite thing ever. The best songs come out of writing with people. Like the more heads, the better. And it's just a fun time.
Your EP was a collaboration with Francis of Delirium. And then for Fighter, you worked with a team that included Dardust. So can you compare those collaborations and how they changed the song you end up with in the end?
So with Francis of Delirium, we went to the same school. We were both kind of the music kids in the school. She's like indie rock and I'm very much pop. And I feel like that fusion like really created some magic. We just ordered Chinese food and sat on the piano and started writing. And then we played this thing with musical chairs where like she would sit down and sing something. And then when we would rotate until something stuck and then we would write it down. And with this team with Fighter, unfortunately, I didn't get to write it. I auditioned with 4 of my own songs and they passed all of the rounds except the last one. And they were like, you know what? We actually have this perfect song for you that we think you would like it. And I'm very, very picky. because I'm a songwriter. I'm like, it has to be mine. And I can be a bitch about it. But it was really incredible that I immediately fell in love with it.
T'as plus 20 ans, t'as plus le temps de faire l'enfant, de faire que la fête.
Musically, it was a bit out of my normal genre, but I loved it. I was like, this is a perfect opportunity to dive deep into that. And the team actually had been searching for a singer for 3 years. Like Dardust and all of them got together 3 years ago, and they kept trying to find a singer to submit it for Eurovision, and they couldn't find one. And I heard the song went through a lot of singers this season, and they found me in the last minute because I was still in the process with my song. It was a male singer before, and then they heard my take on it, and they loved the twist because I kind of have like an airy vibe, and they like the variety of colors in my voice. So I think it just kind of worked out.
Musically, it lives in a very different world from your EP. And the requirements of a Eurovision song can often be different than a song that you're playing either in a more intimate venue or just for Spotify or something like that. And that this can both be a really cool opportunity, but also present a problem for an artist because you develop this body of work, you develop a sound and an identity, and then finding a way to take what's authentically you and translate it to this giant arena, which is why actually like the Cornelia Jakobs thing was so interesting to me, because it's like, she is an artist who kind of was able to like thread that needle. That was a long way of asking a question, which is that like, how do you sort of navigate who you are in this new experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I haven't gotten that one before. I love that. My biggest idols, they have how many different eras. Those are the people I admire most. Like people that can do this expansive stuff at Eurovision, but then people that can go into jazz, like Lady Gaga. Just Dance was like her first kind of hit, and it's a crazy pop album. And then suddenly she's doing Tony Bennett jazz, and then all of a sudden she's doing Joanne country stuff. And it's just so cool to see her different eras. Same with Taylor Swift, like all these big artists who honestly gives you longevity. It gives you financial stability. It's a smart way of thinking. In New York, I have a jazz gig every Thursday. And so in the future, in my brain, I'm seeing a jazz album and a funk Stevie Wonder type thing and a indie Phoebe Bridgers, Maggie Rogers thing, and I have so many colors to my personality, my cultures, my voice, that I think of it all as one person, all as Tali, but as a way to kind of navigate through those different genres and thread them together. So for me, this Eurovision thing is like really exciting. It is not what I expected at all, but I trust my gut and I trust that I like the song from the start and that we can create this era right now. And I think it's so exciting. I never would have thought that I'd be this pop. Like the people are calling me icon. I'm like, what is going on?
You mentioned the sort of funk Blue Stripes project, and also dovetailing off of the idea of collaboration, right? It's like, how is that dynamic different working with a band as opposed to your solo collaborations, I guess I'd call them?
I feel like a lot of people would say that solo and band is very different. But for me, it's very similar because I'm a people's person. And even if I'm doing like solo music, I'm like talking to lots of people and I collaborate in every way I can. It's different live, right? Because there's a bit more like solo time on stage. And then with the band, with Blue Stripes, especially when we gig, it's sax and trumpets and it's huge. And so it's like really cool to have like such support on stage. So it's different. And with this Eurovision stuff, like I'm having dancers on stage. Like that's insane. So cool. I was like geeking.
You trained in theater at Marymount Manhattan. How do you think your theater training has informed your original music? And then how did it prepare you for those national finals?
Wow. I feel like my degree helped me so much in these finals. Like really, I was like, I'm never going to use this. But it really taught me so much. And I realized it practically like in these months. Like when it comes to interview talking, when it comes to playing with the camera, when it comes to presence, when it comes to breath control. Like there's so many things that go with a musical theater degree that you wouldn't think that help you with a pop career, but it's so connected.
You've been writing songs since you were 16 or so. You knew when you were applying to college that maybe that was the path for you. Was there an impulse to go to like theater school as opposed to like Berkeley, which would have been more of a sort of music track?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to do musical theater because it included acting and singing. So it was like more of a bigger spectrum in terms of all the things that I like to do. I think that songwriting is a very personal, like I hate when people tell me what to write. In a institution where it was like structured in a way, I would have lost my passion a bit. My first choice was Boston Conservatory because it had links with Berkeley and I could have taken music classes. And so I applied for kind of a songwriting / musical theater degree and I got in, but I didn't get a scholarship. So it's like really hard for my family to pay. So that would have been like dream, but everything happens for a reason. And I ended up in New York. So I'm very, very thankful.
You have lived in many places in the world. You also speak quite a few languages, which I think also ties into Fighter as well. That decision of having multiple languages in the song, was that a decision that was already made when the song came to you?
Yeah, I think specifically for Luxembourg, like 50% plus of the population is international, but everyone speaks so many languages. I'm a cocktail of cultures, but Luxembourg is insane. Everyone comes from everywhere and it's so cool. And I think that the team really wanted to represent Luxembourg in that way with a song. Like I speak so many languages and what an honor to be able to sing in both and both represent Luxembourg, right? But also represent me.
You're in New York when you're finding out that you're going to the national finals and then that process afterwards. Can you sort of walk us through that?
So Luxembourg announces that the Eurovision is coming back and that there's auditions. I'm in New York, so I have no clue what's going on. And I get like 8 texts the same day from friends, family, all saying, Tali, no way, you have to audition. This is so for you. And I'm like, okay, like, let's do it. So I send in my songs, which is like the 4 songs that I already had. And I keep like passing the stages. And then November is like the final one before the finals in Luxembourg. And I don't have money and I still don't. I literally pay for the ticket to come all the way to Luxembourg just for the audition. There's something in my gut that I'm like, I have to do this. And I leave for a week. I do the audition and the feedback was very positive, but again, we don't know anything. And then I think it was a couple weeks later that I got the song Fighter and that they wanted to hear me on it and all this stuff. And we were back and forth and I had no clue what was going on, but I was just going along with the ride. And then I found out that I passed with the song and that I was in the finals. And yeah, December 10th, I get a call from the production team and they're like, you have to leave your whole life behind and come to Luxembourg. And I was like, what? Going back home? Like, who would have ever thought? And so I come back home and the rehearsals start. We have choreography, staging, styling, makeup, interviews, all the stuff starts, which is super cool. I get to meet the finalists, which were amazing. All of them. We're all actually hanging out again. We're having karaoke night on Friday. We all grabbed pizza and had a lot of get-togethers. And it was like a super supportive environment, which is not normal. Like, I feel like there's normally like someone with a big ego or big personality or divas. And really everyone was really kind and so supportive. So that was beautiful. And then we did it. And I didn't know that I was going to win at all. I was like, what? As you saw in my reaction, I was so shocked.
So then we're coming to this year's Eurovision, and it's happening against the backdrop of the war in Gaza. Obviously, you were born in Israel. Your mother's Israeli. As someone who has like a familial and personal connection to all of this, how do you think about the issue and how do you feel Eurovision and the EBU should be responding?
Yeah, these are tough questions. I think bottom line, I've been saying a lot, like, I hate all the hate that's been going on, you know, on both sides from everything. I think that this contest for me and for a lot of people has always been about unifying cultures and celebrating music through cultures. This is not a neutral answer I'm trying to tell you. This is genuinely how I feel about the contest. As a person who was born in Israel and then moved around and has known so many cultures from all over the world, it's hard. Like, I have friends who have died. One of my friends in college, she's Palestinian and she has family there that is very much in danger. I hate it all. And so I think from the bottom of my heart, we all want it to stop. I've been getting a lot of hate comments and all this stuff, when it's like, I'm going to speak from my heart and say what I think. And that's what I think.
And while I can understand the argument of when an Israeli artist is representing with the Israeli flag, that there's more than just the artist. But it's interesting to see that then that hate gets sent to you just because you were born there. Like, when you go to the competition, you're not representing Israel. So going from your life in New York, suddenly you win the competition, and to see this sort of storm of hate come your way, what's that been like to process?
It's been tough. I can't lie. It's hard. There's always going to be hate, whether that is where you come from, how you look, what you're singing, what your voice sounds like. And it all hurts. And there's a way to remove yourself from that, because people don't even know me. If anything, it makes me stronger and it makes me keep fighting. And that's what the song is about. It's like, in those tough moments when people are being mean, and like, you just got to get up and be stronger and keep doing you and keep doing what makes you feel strongest, you know, which for me is singing.
Do you want to talk about what your favorite Lizzy McAlpine song is, and why?
Oh my God, that's such a hard question. I love her.
See, that the questions do get harder than Israel.
This is the hardest question so far. Like, Ceilings is a classic, but I've been following her ever since Apple Pie, where she had like 5,000 followers. I was one of those. When I write, naturally, I gear towards this genre. And so when I hear her, I really hear myself in a lot of ways. I also really like that she comes from like Berkeley, and she was just this girl trying to make music. She did it all by herself, and I really admire that. I think her lyrics are very vulnerable, and I love how open she is about it. And her melodies, her simplicity, again, like back to Cornelia Jakobs. Yes, Gaga is my favorite artist and she's crazy, but I also love like Lizzy and Cornelia Jakobs and like all these simple artists that just make music and love it, and it shows.
It kind of feels like the two sides of theatricality in a way. It's like there's Gaga, where it's spectacle and this giant like kind of performance. Yeah. And then there's the black box theater, where the person is like looking you directly into the eye and showing you their soul. And so there's something cool about listening to your EP and then seeing the fighter performance about straddling those two worlds.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope that I will be in both worlds. Like, that would be really cool. Yeah.
Tali, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Having me, you guys are so kind.
All the mysteries of the Euroverse.